and there's off-site SEO, which is basically everything else. So everything else includes things like links. So as we'll see, links from other websites to your website, one-way links are important, and quality one-way links from a well-respected site to your site, that is the sort of link you want to attract. So that's really what off-site SEO is all about. The other areas covered by off-site SEO are things like social media, so things like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and things like that, LinkedIn, Pinterest. There's a whole load of these so-called social media sites, and these days I would say is getting yourself found well in Google is probably 50% on-site, 50% off-site SEO. You need to do both. You might find that if you've got a fairly obscure subject, just a little bit of on-site SEO might do the trick. You might suddenly find yourself on the first page. But if you're in a competitive area, like for instance chiropractors, there's an awful lot of chiropractors around. So in Perth, I've got no idea how many there are, but there seem to be an awful lot. So if you're a chiropractor Perth and you've got one particular practice, private practice, and if you want to get onto the first page, that is very competitive. So you have to do a lot of work to do that. It's still doable. It just means you're going to have to do a lot more work than, say, coming onto the first page for maybe a fish and chip shop in a particular suburb. I mean, you're going to have very little competition in that case. So, as I say, that's really what search engine optimization is all about. It's about optimizing, one way or another, your particular web pages so they come as high as possible in the search engine results when people search for your product or service. Now, take SEO seriously, don't dabble. Basically, there's an awful lot of people we come across. People ring us up and say, oh, I've done a little bit of SEO, or I bought in some links a while back to try and improve my SEO, and big surprise, we're still not being found. Well, at the end of the day, if you're going to do SEO, take it seriously. It's not difficult. Even if you outsource it, it shouldn't be too expensive. And at the end of the day, I mean, if you pay for money to go in something like this, good old Yellow Pages, if you want a lineage ad in there, fine. But if you want one of these big display ads, I have no idea what they charge, apart from the fact people tell me they spend an awful lot of money on Yellow Pages. I can't actually remember the last time I actually looked at Yellow Pages. I honestly can't remember the last time I looked up a business in Yellow Pages, and that's increasingly common these days. For some businesses it works, in which case fine, stick with it. But for a lot of businesses now, the first port of call is Google. They just Google something, they want to find it, and if they find you, you get the business. It's as simple as that. And as I say, I've no idea what it costs to advertise in Yellow Pages, but I'm guessing it's certainly not that cheap. If you're advertising yourself, you probably know the cost yourselves. The great thing about websites is websites are incredibly cheap. The hosting of a website is minimal. You get a good web hosting site is for under $100 a year. You can get your domain name for about $10 a year, and then after that, if you promote it right, it's kind of free. So why would you want a 2-page ad or 1-page ad in Yellow Pages? For the cost, there is just no comparison. Obviously, as I said, it does change from one business to another business. It depends what you're advertising. If the particular market you're looking at is an older market, then chances are, yes, they'll use Yellow Pages. But certainly a younger market, I mean, they don't even use computers these days. They do all their searching on their mobile phones. That's the sort of market you've got to chase, because increasingly that's important. Now, anyone can do SEO. You don't have to be technical. That's the really nice thing about SEO. With SEO, what you do need is good, up-to-date, real advice, as opposed to someone's opinion or some nonsense you can find on YouTube, looking at out-of-date videos. Or again, if you just search in Google for how to do SEO, there are a whole load of free this, that, and the others. Most of which are just trying to get you to view their pages so that you might click on one of the adverts on there, and the people running the websites make some money from you clicking on the adverts. These sort of advert-driven sites. Loads and loads of those sort of low-quality sites. There are a couple of decent SEO sites which are basically run by larger companies, and you can get good advice from them, but again, it generally involves signing up, parting with money for the really good information. So as I say, the good news is that anyone can do SEO. You don't have to be a programmer. You don't need technical knowledge. You don't need to be a web designer. What you do need to do is you have to commit to learning a little bit of basic information, which is not difficult, it's not technical. And then you have to commit to applying it. Again, in the past, I have run SEO courses, and I generally find when I'm running SEO courses, it's people who are running their own businesses. They're the ones who make the best out of the courses that we run, because they actually go away and apply it. Quite a few times I've done SEO courses for corporates, and it's amazing how often people come along, sit in the course, leave at 5 o'clock, whatever it is, go away, absolutely no change to the website whatsoever. You think, well, why did they bother? Maybe it was just a day out, I don't know. But the good news is that when it comes to SEO, search engine optimization, if your competitors are big companies and you're a small company, providing you commit to doing the work, you're in a better position than they are, because you don't need to have a meeting about doing something on the website. You can just go and do it, which means you can react fast as new things and new ideas come out. You can implement those. It also means that you can keep making regular changes to your website. Basically, as I say, giving Google the things that it likes, and you just keep going. And because it's your business, if you keep going, eventually you'll find the position is just rising up and up and up. And eventually, if you're not on the first page at the moment, you will be, all things being equal. Obviously, as I say, it does depend on your business. If you've got a very, very competitive business, and if you're up against a whole load of other companies who are also up to date on their SEO and do it themselves probably, you're going to find that more difficult. But as you saw in an earlier section, we're in an SEO company. Yeah, we run an SEO company. We run an SEO training company. And as you've seen, we're just a tiny little company. We're not some big corporate. I mean, basically, there's 3 of us. That's it. And small is good as far as the internet is concerned, because small means you can react easily, and if things are not quite right, you go and change them. You don't have to have a meeting about changing them at some point in the future. That's really my point. So small is good. SEO and the return on investment. As I've already indicated, if your idea of marketing is to spend heaps of money and give it to Yellow Pages, well, in some businesses that works. For a lot of businesses now, people I talk to, they say, well, hey, it was renewal time for Yellow Pages, and we thought, no, we're not doing it anymore, and we want to see about promoting our website instead. Well, the great thing is there's very little comparison in the costs between a big advert in Yellow Pages and doing the SEO, especially if you're going to do it yourself. It is that easy to do it yourself if you've got the right knowledge. If you compare the cost of a website and your SEO activities with advertising on the radio, on the TV, or newspapers, again, there's no real comparison. And the great thing is that with a website, it's out there 24/7. Every single day of the week, of the year, it's out there. It's basically advertising your product or your service. Your customers come to you. You don't have to go and get them. So again, that's good, because if you're looking for customers, if they're coming to you in the first place, chances are they're interested. You just got to make sure that you've got exactly the product or the service or the price that they want. So again, it's very much a nice situation you're in with the website, because you are attracting customers who already are interested by the very fact they found your website by searching on it. So you just got to make sure your website looks better than your competitors, and after that, all things being equal, it comes down to the usual things like prices, terms, deals, all the rest of it. But the important point is getting access to that business in the first place. At the end of the day, if you've got an important keyword phrase you'd like to get found on, and you type that into Google and you're on page 6, you might as well just not be there. If you're not on the first 2 pages, at best, there's no point in having a website, to be honest. Obviously, that does changing it for some people, because in some cases they might have a business card, and the business card might have the web address on there. So a lot of people use the website purely as a kind of online brochure, if you like. What we're talking about in this course is using the website to attract new customers. If people know your web address, chances are they'll type it in. If you work for Microsoft, for instance, they don't have to think about that. They'll just type in www.microsoft.com. If, on the other hand, you've got a website like Joe's glazingbusiness.com, people aren't just going to type that in on the off chance. They've got to find you via the search engines, or possibly read an address on a business card. But as I say, that just shows you that you can use things like business cards and headed notepaper and the rest, obviously, to point people to your website, and again, that will get you more visitors. Now, what is possible and what is not possible with SEO? Well, it's important to realize that there are limitations to SEO. You can't, for instance, just do a whole load of changes to your website and expect to be found on your chosen keyword phrases this time next week. The first thing is, good SEO takes time. Good SEO takes effort. So you've got to make, in some cases, fundamental changes to the way your website is displayed, to what's contained on your website, to how it's structured. You've got to think about things. That's really the main thing. You can't just simply go off, throw some money at the problem and hope it's going to be fixed. You can try third-party SEO companies to do the work for you, but as I said, there are some good ones and an awful lot of bad ones. So if you're going to do that, be very, very careful how you do it. Do your research properly. It's definitely a question of buyer beware the SEO world. The other thing is, if you do the careful SEO and you do your research properly and you take your time, then you will find potentially the benefits are incredible. But as I say, you shouldn't expect instant results. The other thing that you shouldn't expect is, as was previously mentioned, you should be realistic about what people are going to search for. Because people, as I say, if they're searching for a plumbing company in Perth, they're not just going to type in the word plumbing or plumbers. They're going to put some qualifying words in, like plumbing, Joondalup, plumbing, Ocean Reef, plumbing, Perth, whatever it happens to be. So those are the sort of things you should think about. That is possible. Just trying to get found to the word plumbers, it is possible theoretically, but it's going to be very difficult. And also, you don't really want to do it. It's a waste of effort. Now, off-site SEO is basically everything else. It's everything's off your website. So as I say, primarily it's about links and social media. And these days, it's the quality of the links that matter, not the quantity of links that matter. And it's important to realize that there's lots and lots of things you can do to increase your SEO, but there's also things you can do that can harm your SEO. And having links from bad areas or bad neighborhoods, as they're called, they can actually harm your website these days. So if you'd responded in the past to some sort of spammy email that offered you maybe 1,000 links to your website for $20 or something daft like that, a lot of people fall for this because they just don't know any better. If you've done that in the past, you might find you do actually have 1,000 links to your website, but they're from what are called bad neighborhoods. They're from websites that Google has marked as a little bit dodgy. And links from bad neighborhoods, they will damage the positioning of your website in the search engine results now. There are ways of getting around this, and that's the sort of thing we cover on other courses, but it is important to realize this, that links from dodgy websites will harm your SEO. Simple as that. Different search engines. It's important to realize that there's not just Google, there's a whole bunch of other search engines. So there's Google, Bing, Yahoo. Those really are the top three. But there's dozens of others. In fact, there's hundreds of others if you really wanted to start searching for them. Don't worry about all the other ones. Just concentrate on those three. Basically, you've got Google, Bing, Yahoo. That's it. By far and away, the most important one is Google. Gets most of the traffic. That's where most of your potential business is going to come from. And basically, make sure that your website is listed on these, let alone found. So for instance, you've probably checked out Google, but make sure you check out things like Yahoo and Bing, and just type in your company name or your company web address and search for those within the search engines. If you can't find them, chances are for one reason or another, the search engine doesn't know about your particular website, in which case submit it to the search engine, and after a period of time it'll start being picked up and you should show up. The trophy search engine is always going to be Google, but do consider the other ones, things like Bing and Yahoo and what have you. Now, how search engines work. The first thing to realize is that a search engine doesn't magically somehow know about every single website that's out there on the internet. Basically, the search engines, each different search engine, only knows about websites that have been submitted to it, or that over time it's found by following links from other websites. So that's the first thing. So it is possible that Google, for instance, has never actually found your website. You've never actually submitted it for inclusion in the Google index. So if you've got a particular company name, type that into Google, see if you can be found. If you can't be found on that, type your actual web address in, the www, etc., into the search and see if you can be found on that particular search. If you can't, that means that Google, for one reason or another, doesn't know about you, in which case you need to submit your particular website to the search engine. Now, it's important to realize that Google has these things called robots or crawlers, and they're little bits of software. And what they do is they go off on their own and search the internet, and they follow links from one place to another. So they follow links from one site to another site. Once they've got to a site, they follow